We are not facing climate emergency, rising authoritarianism, vaccine apartheid because we didn't get the right experts in the room. That's not what happened. Our deepest problems stem from injustice. In the realm of climate change, there's an organizer named Hop Hopkins who said, you can't have climate change without sacrifice zones. And you can't have sacrifice zones without disposable people. And so to tackle climate change or any of the other grave problems that we face, we need to confront the injustice that lies at the heart of them. How do you do that? How do ordinary people take on injustice? Two of the most valuable tools we have are our systems of rules, imperfect as those rules may be, and ourselves, the power of law and the power of people. And Namati builds movements that wields those two tools in tandem. Sierra Leone, for example, 2013, a European oil palm company managed to secure a lease agreement for 75,000 acres of rainforest for 50 years for $2 an acre per year behind closed doors far away from the land in question without the consent of the 22,000 people who live and depend on that land. How do you get a lease agreement like that? It's because they thought those people were disposable.
Now they say one company don't kind of chief domo, they say they want land. They begin to say, the people don't get for do something. That's it. Now development, I say me that development, we don't go want that. Now that until then they claim they cut the banga, then process permit. We say we don't see a neighbor or chief down there or town there, they never for make farm again. So I see say if that kind of thing they will self agree, the penalty we don't want they suffer now, the same thing we self the group. Law form a organization where it go be say now the land will they defend.
One thing we make a glad in Mona because una sabi una guide them.
This Namati they make come with solidarity. We go meet them, then council will help.
As a legal empowerment organization, now one thing and the way we can do for make sure say we help the people for able to understand the contract.
But who struggle be there on that thing day. Then the whole meeting, then they even catch other people then where then they deny for put it themselves. So no go for it down there. Because me I know about me right.
Mrs. Jallow ended up becoming a part of a national movement that fought for and won a new land law that is revolutionary. Community members identified what systemic changes were necessary based on their experience fighting injustice in their own backyard. We talk about a legal empowerment cycle where people can know and use existing rules that are already on the books to tackle problems in their own neighborhoods, and then come together to envision and fight for better rules. And those become new provisions that communities and paralegals can breathe life into by invoking them in local struggles. Know law, use law, shape law. This is a cycle and a wheel that we are aiming to turn with partners in 6 diverse countries. In Myanmar, despite brutal military dictatorship, paralegals and communities protect rights to land and environment and navigating what is an extremely unjust system.
Ano kombela ku hina a partir disso swi pula matihlo porque a swifanelo swa ka hina swa twanyiwa na hi nga perceber.
In Mozambique, there are, like many countries, progressive healthcare policies on the books, but a huge enforcement gap. And organizers and communities work across the country to understand what those rules are and to get enforcement. In Kenya, there is a long-standing Jim Crow-style system where 5 million people are subject to discriminatory vetting when they try to apply for ID cards. And paralegals are working with communities to secure ID documents and then ultimately building a movement to end vetting altogether. Also in Kenya, 60% of the land mass is common grazing lands that people have relied on for centuries. And there was a law passed in 2016 that makes it possible for the first time for these communities to secure rights over these lands. They have never to date had legal rights to govern these lands. And paralegals and communities are working to follow the steps under that law to secure implementation and pushing to have the law be implemented nationwide. I travel all over the world, and everywhere I go, people are following very closely the work that Namati and partners are doing in the United States.
A lot of black and brown communities all across the nation house industries that are poisonous to our health. We are a sacrifice zone.
There's a facility that from the outside, it doesn't look like much more than a typical Washington, D.C. row house, but inside, it's a chemical factory. And they're emitting formaldehyde, emitting carcinogens, and have these terrible health effects. Right next door to that facility, connected to it, is a woman with her children who has been living there for about 10 years.
This community has such a high concentration of industrial land use in this one little area that the residents cannot open their windows or sit outside because of the strong stench of garbage from the trash transfer facility and cooking tar from the asphalt plant.
Environmental injustice in the U.S. is directly linked to economic injustice. And so we are working at that intersection and co-convening the Mid-Atlantic Justice Coalition to address those intersecting issues. A lot of systemic reform efforts in the US are insufficiently connected to communities, even though they're the ones facing the worst impacts. And so the coalition that we're building focuses on putting that heart where it should be, with the people most affected.
When they know the law and they explain it to us in plain English, we use it to our advantage. We use it to take care of our community.
The problems we are taking on are bigger than 6 countries. They're global. I was part of an international task force on justice, and we looked at data from over 100 countries, and we estimated that worldwide 5.1 billion people live with grave injustices that they cannot remedy. So around the world, we have joined forces. We co-convene the largest community of justice organizations in the world with members from over 170 countries.
The Legal Empowerment Network, which Namati convenes, is the world's largest community of grassroots justice defenders. We bring together thousands of organizations and individuals from every continent.
I have hope because activists are addressing this challenge head-on.
By meeting each other and sharing experiences, our network members have come away with new ideas on how to tackle old problems and ways to improve methods that they've long struggled with.
If we can achieve deep change in several specific countries and grow a stronger global movement for grassroots justice, we can put justice at the center of the way the world responds to the climate crisis. We can put it both in the diagnosis and in the solution. And we can harness the leadership of people who are bearing the brunt of injustice. We are giving this fight everything we've got, and it requires all of us. It requires you.